What's up, guys? This is Courtney, one half of the rest of Deconstruction here, and I'm bringing a review of the last 3 episodes for the Twilight Zone, simply because I really wanted to talk more about episodes 9 and 10, and I just kind of didn't know how the rest of the season was going to turn out, so I just wanted to finish the rest of the episodes, and then come back and do a review. Because, like I stated in my other videos, it was a bit of a chore to get through some of these episodes just because they were so interesting. I didn't even finish episode 8. I probably stopped watching it about halfway through and I just jumped to episode 9. I'll probably go back and watch episode 8 at some point, but the reason why I don't have like any witty intro to this video is because it's going to be spent mostly talking about episodes 9 and 10. So a real quick rundown on episode 8, Point of Origin. It's a wealthy, privileged family that has, I think, a Guatemalan housekeeper or a babysitter or something like that, who gets taken away. It just really seemed uninteresting to me, the story. And I kind of, with the preview from episode 7 that they showed and the opening part of this episode, I figured that, I think it's Jennifer Goodwin, I think her name is. I figured that she was probably an alien or something like that. Oh, as I look up the episode, yeah, it turns out that she's an alien from another dimension. So yeah, the intro of the episode kind of hinted at that, because it shows her staring off out the window. And she has some type of weird reflection in her eyes. And then when the housekeeper comes in to talk to her, and she says, "Oh, I'm sorry, I was in another dimension." So as soon as she said that, I was like, "Oh, she's probably like an alien or something." Whatever the story has to do, she's probably an alien, especially as I got further along in the episode. So yeah, it turns out she was an alien from another dimension. So yeah. Going on to episode 9, titled The Blue Scorpion. It stars Chris O'Dowd, and he's an anthropology teacher. And he's, I guess, kind of depressed or whatever. He's going through a divorce, so he'd rightfully be depressed. And he comes home one day and finds out that his father has apparently committed suicide. And the gun that he used is some fancy ass, it looks like a 1911 to me. Apparently, there's something with the gun. There's a legend behind it. There's only been like 7 other owners, because after he gets the gun back from police, from evidence, he's thinking about selling it, and the guy who was going to buy it from or help him facilitate by selling the gun tells him, "Hey, a lot of people will be, there are people that are willing to shell out a lot of money for this gun. There's only been like 7 owners, including you. There's a legend behind it. The Blue Scorpion hates the dark, so you have to give it some light, this and that." This episode was really, really interesting because he has a student who, funnily enough, is played by Luisa de Oliveira. I probably butchered her name, I'm so sorry. But I know her from this Canadian TV show called Cracked, where she was a main character in it. And as soon as she popped up on screen, I knew that I recognized her from somewhere, but I couldn't remember what. But she plays a student that's doing a report about animism, and she starts thinking that random inanimate objects in her home have souls, and they're lonely when she leaves them alone, things of that nature. Chris O'Dowd's character corrects her and says animism has religious background, and she's probably just experiencing anthropomorphism, which is, I guess, attributing human qualities to objects. So the interesting thing for me was that this happened at one point in the episode, and then he starts experiencing this with the gun. Now, another weird thing with the gun is that when he sees it, he picks up a bullet and he sees that it has his name on it, and he starts running into people named Jeff. every day. The divorce lawyer that his wife hires is named Jeff. The man who he goes to his wife's house, and she tells him, hey, by a suggestion of friends, I went and got a lawyer. And he's like, I thought we were going to do counseling. And she says, I fell in love with another man named Jeff. So this shit is really starting to freak him out a bit. And I like Chris O'Dowd's performance because he slowly loses his mind and it begins to break down, especially when he starts talking to the gun. Although I will say the scene at the gun range, which also has an employee named Jeff that he runs into and encounters, the scene at the gun range is fucking outrageous. First of all, he walks into the range without his ear protection on. There's no way a gun range, at least not the gun range that I go to, they wouldn't let you walk into the presence of the range without wearing your ear protection first. And then secondly, he does some wild shit. Now, he's doing like the one-handed aiming, like the sideways aiming, but then he does some weird ass like behind the back shit, and I'm like, oh no, that'll get you thrown out. I know it's cameras in there. It's gotta be cameras in there. What type of bullshit is this? But he wants to experience shooting the gun. And when he gets down to the last bullet that has his name on it, because it really doesn't, only he can see it, nobody else can, it doesn't work. So he ends up, you can tell that he's depressed, suicidal, but then he decides, well, maybe I should go to my soon-to-be ex-wife's house and kill the man that she fell in love with named Jeff. He gets carjacked while he's sitting outside of the house, and while trying to get to the gun, it goes off. It went off randomly earlier in the episode as well, but it goes off, it kills the carjacker, who turns out is a guy that's been burglaring, people's houses and shit like that recently, and who's also named Jeff. So we see the name disappear off the bullet. He then takes the gun, throws it away. He gets like a promotion at his at the university that he works at. They put him on like the anthropology board or something, and he finally decides to get rid of this object that's caused them so much trouble in the recent amount of time that he's been introduced to it. So I like this episode. I think I don't really quite have a hand on the subtext behind it yet, but I like this episode. So that was a good pickup from the rest of the episodes. Now let's talk about the last episode. This one is titled The Blurry Man. And remember how before when I said that I accidentally came across spoilers for like how the Twilight Zone season played out? It was for this particular episode. And now spoilers don't necessarily ruin an episode, because mostly it's about how it plays out, right? You might know that this one character dies, or you might know that the character in a movie or the TV show that you watch isn't the character that you've been led to believe, but it's about how it plays out and gets up to that point. So, knowing the information that I know about the spoiler in this episode, having actually watched the episode, I get why it appeared on a list of, I think, twists that didn't work or something like that. Whatever the list was, it was about plot twist or something of that nature, and they just didn't turn out how it was meant to be. And this is an episode that once again is missed potential. So Blurry Man stars Zazie Beetz. I think I pronounced her first name correctly. I saw her pronounce her name on, I think, Jimmy Fallon or something like that. And it's a German name, so it's very Zazie like that. But anyway, it stars her, and it's a fourth wall breaking episode. And you guys know I love fourth wall breaking. So the episode starts with Seth Rogen, who's a writer, and he's trying to finish this story. He's trying to work his way towards fixing the story that he's come up with. He comes across like a note. He has notes on his desk. He comes across one that says mushroom clouds, and he's very much, oh, you have the most important part that you don't show in the episode, this and that. And then he has a epiphany moment, and then he says, okay, this is what it's gonna be. Betty Gabriel, who you might recognize from Get Out as Georgina, comes into the room, and he says, hey, I just, made the breakthrough for the story. Let's go ahead and go out. Opens up the curtains. It's like a nuclear hellscape outside, right? So then we get the narration by Jordan Peele, and he doesn't quite like it. So he stops the episode, and he said, I don't really think this works that way. So I'm like, wait, huh? What's going on here? So the story, so Zazie Beetz stars as a writer of the Twilight Zone who's a fan of the original, but doesn't quite have a grasp on this particular opening narration and vision that Jordan Peele has for the narration. Because they kind of have, it's not an argument, it's really a discussion. It's not even a debate, but it's really a discussion about art versus reality. So he tells her, hey, rework it a little bit, don't try to make it so complicated, because she's very much, Rod Serling elevated the material, and it wasn't just kiddie make-believe sci-fi bullshit. If you're not using this to get across a message, then what's the point? So she's very much on, there has to be a message in everything, and Jordan's like, does it really have to be that way though? Like, why can't it just be a simple story? So I liked where they were going with it, but then she rewrites the opening narration, and the cue cards that they make up, because they're on like a deadline or whatever, the cue cards are just completely wrong. Jordan is reading it, but it's about Sophie and what she's gonna experience. So throughout the episode, she starts seeing, like, once she's told that, hey, there's a blurry man in the library in this one particular episode in every take. So did you have something to do with that? And she's like, no, I don't know what you're talking about. So after she finds out that there's a blurry man in the takes of this one particular episode, and he pops up in other episodes as well, which I actually want to go back and watch some of these other episodes to see if they just put this in post, or if the blurry man actually popped up in those episodes, because that would be cool if they did that and you don't realize it until this episode. But she then starts seeing the blurry man in person. So she's kind of chased through the different sets by the blurry man, and she finally has an inner monologue. She's talking to herself, and she realizes, okay, I have to face my fear. She used to be a fan, like I said, of the original show, and even then her dad didn't want her to watch the show because they're just make-believe stories, and her mom was like, she likes it, just let her do it. So at that point, she has a breakthrough with the narration. She gives it to him, but then realizes, shit, this isn't over, because her inner monologue says so. So then we find out that the blurry man the whole time has been Rod Serling himself. Now, if you don't know, Rod Serling has been dead for quite some time. So the CGI looks horrendous. I'm going to actually go back and put like maybe a clip from the episode or a still image, but the CGI just looks really, really bad. And they had somebody play his body, his face, and they had somebody do his voice.
What do we do when our world is turned upside down? When everything we thought to be true is ripped away, and we're forced to face a new reality?
I don't understand. They could have gone in a different direction with this episode. That's the biggest problem that I have, because you could have done a fourth wall breaking episode and not involve Rod Serling. You could have had a writer who just didn't really, it could have been the same argument, art versus life, right? Sometimes it's okay to have it be a make-believe story. It doesn't have to be any deeper subtext to it. Sometimes it's good to have a hidden metaphor within the episode, but you don't have to use the literal ghost of Rod Serling, which I think it came off, especially as they both walk through the multiple Twilight Zone doors, and they spin around and they walk into, I guess, the depths of the galaxy or whatever like that. It came off as especially with the narration that he was saying, and it sounded like it was the narration that Sophie wrote for that particular episode that Seth Rogen and Betty Gabriel were in. Oh, this is a new beginning, blah, 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 this and that. I get that, right? But you could have easily not included that at all and just had it been a writer struggling to face what they don't understand. They know that all these stories are make-believe, but sometimes the shit is real. There are unexplainable stories that you have out there. She kind of says that as she's confronted by the Blurry Man at one point in the episode. So I think that overall, while the episode wasn't bad, I think they could have they were heading in a particular direction, but then they got sidetracked trying to do the memorial, all that stuff based around Rod Serling, which I don't really think was needed. You could have just strictly set up a writer that's struggling to create this story for whatever reason. It could be because they don't quite like the genre that they're writing, or they're being tasked to write, or, which is what I thought they were going to go with the episode inside of this episode, it was going to be whatever the writer writes comes to life, and it actually happens. So I think they missed an opportunity with this episode, with the last episode, trying to do a homage type of thing to Rod Serling, and just the model that they created, the duplicate Rod Serling that they had, I was like, oh my goodness, no, I don't like any parts of this. So yeah, hopefully this isn't too long. I know I've been doing a pretty good job of keeping review episodes under like 15, 20 minutes, but because I'm talking about 3 episodes, I knew this one was going to be a little bit longer, and I didn't want to have an intro at the beginning. So yeah, that's my thoughts on the last 3 episodes of the Twilight Zone, guys. Hopefully season 2, which I looked through the list, they have some interesting cast choices. Brandon J. McLaren, who was the Red Ranger in Power Rangers SPD. Damon Wayans Jr., Journey Smollett Bell, Topher Grace. They have some interesting casting choices from what I've read for season 2. So let's hope that that season turns out a little bit better than this first one. We'll see. It premieres June 25th. Check out the other videos for the other reviews. As always, guys, I appreciate the support, whether it's 1, 5, 10, or 100 views. And I'll catch up with you guys later.